A Zelda game without bosses is like a vanilla milkshake. Like, yeah, there are those who just like a good, classic, not very exciting vanilla milkshake, but on the other hand, people like me tend to prefer chocolate with whipped cream and caramel syrup drizzled on top. The real sweetness of a Zelda game lies in its diverse and varied bosses that each individually give it a unique flavoring that makes every sip oh so satisfying. But for this video, we're going to focus on one flavor alone, and that would be Ganondorf the Demon King from Tears of the Kingdom. If you're looking for all the other bosses from the latest breakthrough Zelda game called Tears of the Kingdom, some of which have some very interesting details that you may not know about, look no further than part 1 of this video, which will be linked in the description below and maybe in a card or whatever it's called. I don't know how these YouTube videos work. Anyway, without further ado, let's dive right in. Oh yeah, and spoiler alert, obviously. As I briefly mentioned at the end of my last video, Ganondorf's appearance in Tears of the Kingdom is actually pretty shrouded in mystery. More so than I think a lot of fans were expecting, since this was the grand return of the most iconic Zelda villain that we waited 17 years or so to see again. I'm not criticizing though, just making the statement that because his appearance here is less fleshed out than his previous iterations, we will be theorizing and speculating about his origins and true motivations. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, let's cover what we do know about the Demon King from dialogue and cutscenes in-game. Long before the events of the game transpire, the Kingdom of Hyrule was founded by a Zonai named Rauru and a Hylian named Sonia. In its infancy, the Kingdom of Hyrule had reached out to its surrounding kingdoms for the purposes of declaring peace and establishing agreements and trades or whatever it is that kingdoms do with one another. This is how Ganondorf, the king of the neighboring Gerudo tribe, is canonically introduced to the Hylian king and queen, as after several attempts to reach out to the Gerudo and being met with no response, Ganondorf finally decides to make an appearance and declare his intent to submit to the rule of the Hylian royal family. However, Ganondorf was in fact hiding his true intentions. We can see from a previous cutscene that Ganondorf had recently actually tried to overthrow the Kingdom of Hyrule by summoning an entire swarm of the dangerous desert-dwelling Molduga beasts, which were pretty easily defeated by Rauru's super cool light beam. After his master evil plan blows up in his face, Ganondorf spots Rauru, Sonia, and Zelda's Zonai secret stones from like a mile away using his own natural eyesight. Anyway, he then becomes rather obsessed with the Zonai and their secret stones, as we can see from this dialogue in the False Allegiance cutscene, literally bringing up the subject of the ancient Zonai out of nowhere and saying it's unfortunate that there are only 2 left in the world, Rauru and his sister Minoru. Then he just kind of stares at him menacingly and leaves upon being dismissed. Sometime later, Ganondorf attempts to assassinate Sonia in an attempt to steal her Zonai secret stone by creating a fake Princess Zelda and asking to see the queen in private. However, the incredibly wise queen and princess duo see right through this deceit and are able to stop the Gerudo Blade from reaching the queen using Zelda's newfound recall ability. But once the puppet princess disintegrates into thin air, the queen and real Zelda are distracted, and Ganondorf uses this opportune moment to eliminate Sonia in a single strike from behind, catching her secret stone as she falls lifelessly to the ground. I would also like to point out that Ganondorf is not holding a weapon of any kind when this happens, which doesn't really make a difference, but I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that he literally punched a person dead with a single hit. Yikes. Anyway, with the secret stone in hand, all hell breaks loose both in Hyrule and on Ganondorf's face. Yikes again. Once the stone bonds with its new master, it transforms him from his mortal Gerudo form into that of the immortal Demon King, also giving him the ability to produce endless amounts of gloom, which is a super powerful evil substance, powerful enough to create endless monsters, overpower Rauru, and even shatter the legendary Master Sword. It also makes him look really cool. Before the Demon King is able to kill the other 2 royal Hylian members in front of him, Zelda warps all 3 away, leaving the Demon King to further enhance his new monster army and lead an all-out assault on the Kingdom of Hyrule and her allies, including his own country of the Gerudo. This prompts Zelda and Rauru to summon 5 additional heroes as the Sages of Hyrule and empower them each with their own Zonai secret stones in an attempt to defeat the Demon King. Zelda, however, realizes that this all must have already happened in her original future timeline, since Ganondorf ends up still being alive in the future. She then warns Rauru that this might not go their way, and Rauru responds by saying that he's just gonna do it anyway, and says that worst case scenario, that knight named Link will save the world, since Zelda had been hyping him up this entire time, which is actually really cute. Anyway, eventually they do face the Demon King in a 1 versus 7 fight, which he ends up winning pretty easily. Rauru then decides to sacrifice his own life by absorbing the dark demon energy from Ganondorf, cleansing it through his body and expelling it as light, which won't kill the Demon King, but will keep him in stasis for a really long time. And just before Ganondorf enters his long but temporary slumber, Rauru declares boldly that Link, the knight wielding the Blade of Evil's Bane, will arrive one day to kill him once and for all. To which Ganondorf replies,
"Our battle will be legendary!"
The remaining followers of Rauru then built the famous Hyrule Castle atop the sealing chamber in order to keep the seal on Ganondorf intact in a nice airtight container. But one day in the future, 100 years or so before the present day, a little event called the Calamity happened and weakened Hyrule Castle, which led to Ganondorf's power beginning to grow once again and Rauru's body beginning to disintegrate into light as the gloom overpowered him. Eventually this left his body very nearly used up by the time Zelda and Link stumble upon the Demon King's corpse in the present day. Once they enter the chamber, Rauru's hand either knowingly or conveniently falls off of the body of Ganondorf, leading to Zelda picking up Rauru's secret stone and the resurrection of the Demon King. The first thing he does is attack the pair with an enormous amount of gloom, which mummifies Link's entire arm and shatters the Master Sword. Ganondorf expresses the fact that he's disappointed with Link since Rauru hyped him up so much and then lifts the damaged Hyrule Castle up into the air, popping the cork on his seal completely and enabling him to spread his gloom into the world once again as he falls deep into a chasm. In addition to his monsters beginning to spread in greater and stronger numbers across the land, he also releases manifestations of himself called Phantom Ganons to seek out Link and attempt to assassinate him, with one Phantom Ganon becoming another puppet Zelda and traveling around messing things up, which Link spends the majority of his adventure fixing. Ganondorf does have a neat moment addressing Link directly when the hero faces the puppet Zelda in battle, feeling that Link was lucky to have survived his attack initially due to Rauru's hand, but then realizing that Link actually is, kind of a badass. He then attempts to do quadruple the gloom damage to Link, but Link's friends, the new sages with the powers of the handed down Zonai secret stones, are able to brush aside the gloom like it was nothing. Ganondorf then plays them an MP4 video of what he's going to do to the world when his power comes back fully, threatens them, then laughs and leaves, and the next time we see Ganondorf is when he's approached by Link in their first and final conflict. Long story short, Ganondorf rehydrates, threatens Link, fights a bit, gets beaten, transforms into the Demon King, threatens Link again, fights a bit more, and then gets beaten again. At this point, Ganondorf is so unwilling to let Link win that he decides to do the irreversible, to consume his Zonai secret stone and become a dragon of limitless evil demon dragon potential. Then he gets beaten again, but this time Link stabs the Zonai secret stone, destroying it and Ganondorf, and practically setting off a nuke in the process. And thus ends the life of the newest iteration of Ganondorf Dragmire. But now, let's try to explain the beginning of his life, the motivations behind his actions, and hatred of the Kingdom of Hyrule that are lightly touched on in the game, if at all. And really quick, before we get to that, I just wanted to take a moment and mention my book. It's a Zelda book, which I've been given the amazing and humbling opportunity to write a bit of. It would mean the world to me and the author if you would check it out and maybe even consider pre-ordering it, since there aren't that many Zelda books out on the market. It'll be coming out later this year, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Anyway, as I've said multiple times so far, there isn't much to go off of regarding Ganondorf's intentions aside from evil man, evil plan. Because of this, we'll have to look at the details we are given with a magnifying glass and deduce what we can from there. And I'd like to point out that if any of these conclusions are contrary to what you might believe personally, you are more than welcome to think differently. That's the beauty of theorizing as a community. That being said though, I think that what we're going to talk about today might not only explain Ganondorf's intentions and appearance in Tears of the Kingdom, but also his other appearances across the franchise, as well as an ancient Gerudo legend that has otherwise remained unexplained for over 25 years. But first things first, one of the loudest hidden details about Ganondorf's appearance in Tears of the Kingdom would be the Gerudo shown behind him. And by that, I mean these two masked Gerudo women in particular. They make two appearances, once here on a Gerudo Highland mountain and once here in the Hyrule Throne Room, both times being the closest Gerudo women to appear right behind Ganondorf. These twin Gerudo women wear sashes that read Koume and totk, which for veterans of the franchise should immediately sound familiar. This is not the first time we've seen twin Gerudo of the same names linked closely to Ganondorf. In fact, in Ocarina of Time, which was the first appearance of all three characters, Koume and totk are powerful Gerudo witches referred to as Ganondorf's surrogate mothers. They also have the ability to fuse together and form the big witch known as Twin Rova. We don't have any such text to prove a similar connection in Tears of the Kingdom, but if you you'll notice their skin is also green, unlike any of the other Gerudo, but similar to one in particular, Ganondorf. Their shared odd green skin would imply a blood connection between them and only them, and is also a pattern shared by their original Ocarina of Time appearances. This connection makes sense, but it's the time placement of these cutscenes that makes the theorizing a bit difficult to place. Because, see, if these cutscenes truly do take place at the beginning of the Kingdom of Hyrule according to its known existence, which would have taken place sometime before Ocarina of Time, then that would explain the Gerudo twins' youthful appearance. However, the Gerudo, twins included, all have pointed ears in the cutscenes, which, as the very astute fans know, is a physical feature of the modern Gerudo, not the original Gerudo from back in Ocarina of Time, which is proven to us canonically by contrasting the appearances of the old and new Gerudo women and reading this segment from Creating a Champion, which states quite clearly that the ancient Gerudo had rounded ears. The theories given to explain their modern pointed ears are debatable, but what's not debatable is the fact that the original Gerudo did not look like Tears of the Kingdom's totk and Koume, or any of the Gerudo shown in the cutscenes for that matter, except for Ganondorf himself, who does have rounded ears, but more on that in a bit. This hurts the placement of Tears of the Kingdom's founding of Hyrule being before Ocarina of Time and instead implies it is after. And thanks to an interview between Famitsu and Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma and Tears of the Kingdom director Hidemaru Fujibayashi that was made public recently, this idea actually seems more likely now, since Fujibayashi directly states that Tears of the Kingdom's account of the founding of Hyrule could very well be more of a refounding of Hyrule, stating that it's possible that it was destroyed once before. And this is actually huge, because it means that Tears of the Kingdom's founding of Hyrule past is probably still more futuristic than anything we've seen on the timeline, since the Kingdom of Hyrule is still alive and active at the end of all three branches. Well, except for the adult timeline, within which the kingdom was in fact destroyed by a flood, and New Hyrule was founded somewhere else entirely, leaving the original Kingdom of Hyrule open for a refounding, which would make sense given the sea salt we find all over the place in the era of the wild, since it would have been flooded by an ocean. But hey, this isn't a timeline theory video. I need a break from those. I brought it up, though, to make the point that it's probable, given Fujibayashi's insight and the pointed Gerudo ears in the cutscenes, that the founding of Hyrule shown here actually takes place after the current timeline, within which Ganondorf and totk and Koume have all been slain. However, there is one case on the existing Zelda timeline that showcases an interesting appearance of Twinrova, and that would be their appearance in the Oracle games. These games do take place in the Downfall timeline, which, according to most theories, is a timeline that splits off of Ocarina of Time if that Ganondorf is able to kill the Hero of Time at the end of the game, after transforming into Ganon. This would mean, though, that Twinrova has been killed in the Downfall timeline. This implies that their presence after being killed in the Oracle games is actually, therefore, a reincarnation of the witches, with their entire plan being to resurrect their surrogate son, who is now Ganon, which would also mean that calling them an incarnation of Demise's hatred is valid, and therefore gives credence to their evil intentions and connections to the rest of the lore of the franchise. So here's my theory for Tears of the Kingdom's Twinrova and Ganondorf. What if Twinrova has once again reincarnated or resurrected, as they've been shown to be able to do in the Oracle games? And furthermore, what if Ganondorf as a whole has always been a creation of Twinrova? Think about it. They're known as his surrogate mothers, but, you know, biology and stuff does imply that he must have had a father, and one mother. But that doesn't make sense since he has two mothers, unless he was created instead of born. But that would mean his mothers would have had to have been extremely powerful witches to pull off something like that. Oh wait, that's exactly what they are. And if we think about Ganondorf's existence this way, then not only do multiple Ganondorfs sporting green skin across the franchise make sense, but it also makes sense as to why the female exclusive race of the Gerudo would randomly give birth to one male king once every 100 years. That could just be the rate at which Twinrova can create suitable male heirs, each programmed from their creation to attempt to overthrow the kingdom of Hyrule. And since it's the same ritual creating the same being known as Ganondorf, he would also sport the same rounded ears. If it's true, this explains so many things. The ancient Gerudo legend of one male heir every 100 years, the multiple appearances of a Ganondorf throughout the franchise, and the appearance of totk and Koume in Tears of the Kingdom's cutscenes, which is otherwise completely random. All it requires is that one of Demise's cursed incarnations known as Twinrova reincarnates once again after the end of the current timeline, which is very easy to believe. But that's just my theory. And like I said, you are free to believe this way or not, it's your prerogative. I am, as always, very interested in your thoughts though, so please feel free to leave a comment below detailing what you think, even if it's just to say hi or that you think I'm weird or something. It's okay, I can take it, maybe. And please consider leaving a like on this video if you enjoyed it, or at least my efforts into making it, and would like to put a smile on my face. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get notifications on tons of gaming lore explained in bite-sized, easy to understand pieces, and it also helps grow the channel, so that would be much appreciated. Huge thanks as always to my bandit crew who make my day every day and are the reason this channel is still alive. That's all I've got for this one, so follow me on my socials to keep up to date, and I'll see you next time. This is Bandit signing out. Peace!